welcome to this month's Dr. Kevin's newsletter video starring Morgana. Hey honey, how are you? Are you a little stressed these days? You know, lots of people are. A lot of people are stressed these days. There's the pandemic, there are the elections. Who's telling the truth? Is anyone telling the truth out there? Are they even telling their own truth? Or are they just simply giving us the old, and we have another visitor. I don't know if she has appeared yet on your screen. The other star of the show, Miss Freya. Say hello to your fans, Miss Freya. They all love you. She goes, yeah, I've been loved enough. So, are they really telling us the truth the way they see it or not? Are they openly lying to us, or are they just lying to themselves and telling it to us like it's truth? They're politicians. Who knows? But doesn't mean voting is not important. And I am going to hope that you are reading the newsletter, the written part of the newsletter, because at the end of it I have a video I would like to send you to watch more fully. But I want to give you a couple of highlights, because one thing is really clear: Washington is broken. None of the branches really serve us anymore. They only serve a few of us along the way, in most cases, the uber wealthy and uber powerful, or they serve their own private agendas, their religious belief systems, the groups they belong to, the fraternities and sororities. Will I ever get that word right? Who knows? Their best bad girlfriends and boyfriends and people they hang around with. They serve all of them, and then 95% of the American public are screwed by Washington, D.C. by all three branches in various degrees. The U.S. Supreme Court, the Congress, and the White House. I don't care what your political affiliation is, it's all a screw job. They're in power and they stay in power, and they fix the game to stay in power. I don't think anybody should be appointed for life, first of all, because you get out of touch with life and what's going on. And also, it's been occasionally known that your mental faculties might get a little weaker at certain places, like at 80 or 90 years old. Just because you can hobble in, sit down, and fall asleep, as some famous senators were known to do at the end of their tenure, when no one would vote them out because they were so powerful, but they slept through all of their responsibilities and their decisions were made by aides. Nobody deserves a lifetime appointment. Lives have gotten much longer than they used to be. So we need to keep up with the times. We are an evolving, shifting, changing country. And we can either be rolled over by the change, we can be dragged into a direction we don't want to go by the change, we can be left behind by the change, or we can actively participate and shape the change that is coming. Because it's coming. Are we going to be dragged into a dark ages version of America, where few voices get the majority of the power because the way that the game is played, only a handful of states have the say in determining some of who's in power? Is it going to be the way that we've set up the whole system? Again, if you read what I wrote in this month's newsletter, which is hitting the stands, so to speak, before November 3rd, you will have a video link that explains this much more eloquently than I do. But there is one specific thing I want to point out to you. And when I got in, and I've been really pushing around for a while on this frustration of, we are led to believe we have no power. our vote doesn't really count unless you're in one of a handful of states. And even then, it's a toss-up, depending on like what town or county or district or which part of the state you're in. Everybody needs to be heard. Everybody has a right to be heard. Everybody who lives in this country should have the right to vote for what goes on and who is representing everybody in this country. If I could wave a magic wand and eliminate all political parties, I would do so. They are the bane of the existence of a true, diverse, functioning, healthy U.S. Both parties. But Congress is never going to pass laws, and the White House is never going to sign laws that limit their powers, that hold them accountable in ways in which they need to be held accountable. They're not going to police themselves. So one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is we can go around Congress to make change. Federal elections are decided at the state level. When we pass a law at the state level, it affects federal elections. When enough states have passed something, it becomes national law. We have ways that we can change things because we can change things at our state level. We can begin a ground roots movement, and it's already begun. And part of where I'm sending you is to look at a lot of hard work a lot of people have already done to do it. But I want to talk to you about the American Anti-Corruption Act. I talked about it on my Dr. Kevin show, the radio show. You can go back into my archives and listen to it. It was a two-part show with Matt Connerton. But here are just a few highlights. At the state level, we can create independent commissions that draw voting districts, which means it gets rid of gerrymandering. You no longer have a Picasso-looking painting of a gerrymandered voting district where it absolutely assures that the same party is almost nearly impossible to kick out of power. All of the voting districts in all of the states should have a defendable logic and be reasonably created to represent the people of that state, not set up in such a way that we support an us and them mentality. We need to make it illegal for lobbyists to donate to politicians. They take money, they have to have some kind of being owned for those dollars, especially at the outrageous amount of money it takes to get a national office these days. They have to start raising money the first day that they are sworn in and are elected for the whole 2 or 6 years or 4 years of their term in order to have enough money to run these bloated, really sometimes absurd and definitely obscene political ads that we see. These mudslinging, these half-truths. And again, I am not doing a party line on any of this. Everybody shares in this guilt. Every voter gets a $100 credit to support their candidate. If you're a voter, you can put $100 to the candidate you would like to support. It doesn't come out of your pocket. They get a credit. They spend that on their campaign. They get so many funds from the state level and or even the national level to run for a national office. And everybody gets the same amount. And anybody that gets qualified at a reasonable level can be running so we can have more representation of other parties than just Republican and Democrat on an equal footing. Then ranked choice voting. That's huge. The reason they have such a lock, Republican and Democrat, is because every time a third party runs, the majority of people that might have voted for it thinks, but I'm throwing my vote away. If I do this and I don't vote for Trump, but I vote for, a Lincoln Project sponsored candidate, and Trump loses by so many votes, well, then that means I got Biden. And I didn't want Biden. But I didn't really want Trump. I really wanted this person here, this other person that was running. But I want to make my vote count. And you can only make your vote count in national elections, with a few rare occasions, if you're voting Republican or Democrat. That must go away. This is what keeps the system locked in so that we cannot have a moderate, reasonable representation of the voice of the people in this country. So, my first choice was Mr. X from the Tea Party, Mr. Y from the Lincoln Project, Mr. Z from the Green Party or the Libertarian Party. But if they don't get enough votes for them to win, then my second choice is, and my vote goes to the second choice. And if my second choice didn't make it, it goes to the third choice. That way, everybody's vote counts, and everybody gets to vote from their heart of who they really want in their first round of voting. This will break up the monopoly that Congress has on the U.S. vote and on the U.S. taxpayers. Okay? Because guess who's footing a lot of these bills? You and me, baby. And then last, automatic voter registration and vote from home ballots. If you are registered to drive a car, if you have a social security number that you got, and you reach a voting age, then you should automatically be registered to vote. And we should be making it easy for people to vote. One of the things I refer to in my written portion of this newsletter is one of the famous 27 issues that the colonies had with Britain that led to the Revolutionary War, and it was no taxation without representation. And yet, we have large swaths of people in this country that can't vote or have to pay taxes to vote. First of all, you should never have to pay a penny to vote. You have the right to vote by being somebody who lives in this country and has some documentation. I do believe you should have some documentation to prove you live here, that you are a participating member of this society. But when you take groups of people that are having a hard time even making the money to have enough food on the table, or are ready to lose their house, and then tell them they can't vote unless they pay a tax, whatever that tax, for whatever that reason is, that is absurd. That is un-American. That is trying to suppress the voters that you don't want to have a say in the way this country is running. It should be easy. And anybody who is a true statesman, who really cares about America, and is here to represent all of the Americans, whether it's in their state as a senator or a House of Representative, or in this country, should want every last one of them in their state, in their district, in their country to vote. If they don't, then America is not their first loyalty. And I don't know about you, but I would like to have people in Washington whose first loyalty is to the diversity and health and functionality of all the American people. Not the little subgroup and not the lobbyists that wrote them the big checks, or the top 1% who make sure that they have these millions and millions of dollars, obscene amounts of money that are spent on ads with half-truths and negative and things that show the worst aspects of American politics. Think of what could be done with that money. Building roads, redoing bridges, funding these programs that have been cut back because we can't afford them. Well, you know what? Billions of dollars are spent so people can have 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 more times power at the decision-making table of this country than you and I. And super voters, super blocs, super PACs, they need to go away. They are at the cost of the American people being heard, represented and getting the country they deserve. Now, clearly I have no energy on this. Clearly, this is just one of my passing thoughts for the month. Again, I hope you read the written portion, go to the link that I sent you, and remember, you can count if you choose to. Your vote will count, especially at the state level. You can have a voice in your state picking up any or all of these things that I have outlined. And some states already have. Parts of these things are already working successfully in some states to make the states a better representation of the people that are in them. So, make sure you go out and vote. Stay informed. Don't be a victim of the wrong people ending up in power because you didn't do anything. And right now, they're all the wrong people because they're all getting in power for power's sake and not the sake of the American people. Namaste.